Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here because today I have a story that will make you rethink everything you know about power, respect, and the masks people wear. Imagine standing in the middle of the most opulent lobby you've ever seen, surrounded by gold leaf pillars and the scent of expensive lilies, only to be told that you aren't even worthy of the air you're breathing. Imagine being looked down upon by a man who thinks his bank account gives him the right to crush your soul, completely unaware that the very floor he's standing on belongs to you. How could something like this even happen? What kind of secrets was I hiding behind a simple uniform and a quiet smile? But before we dive into this incredible journey of humbleness and ultimate revelation, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and I love sharing these deep, emotional stories with all of you. Now settle in because this is a story you won't soon forget. The morning sun filtered through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grand Ethelgard Hotel, casting long, shimmering shadows across the marble floor. To the world, I was Elias, a quiet, unassuming man often found adjusting the floral arrangements or checking the temperature of the wine cellar. I wore a simple navy blazer, no flashy watch, and a name tag that simply said guest relations. Most people walked right past me without a second glance, which was exactly how I liked it. You see, I had spent my entire life surrounded by the noise of wealth. My father had built the Ethelgard Empire from nothing, and when he passed away, he left it all to me. But he also left me with a warning. He told me that money acts like a lens. It magnifies the true nature of the person holding it, and it blinds those who look at it. I wanted to see my business and my employees through a clear lens. I wanted to know who people were when they thought no one important was watching. That particular Tuesday started like any other. The lobby was buzzing with high-profile guests arriving for the Global Investors Summit. Among them was Julian Vane, a billionaire real estate mogul known more for his aggressive temper than his business acumen. He stepped out of a matte black limousine, trailing a cloud of expensive cologne and an aura of pure arrogance. I happened to be standing near the concierge desk when he marched in. He didn't just walk, he reclaimed space as if the world were his personal driveway. He snapped his fingers at a young bellhop who was already struggling with 3 heavy suitcases, demanding that his bags be taken to the penthouse suite immediately. When the young man stumbled slightly, Julian didn't offer a hand or a kind word. Instead, he let out a sharp, mocking laugh that echoed through the silent lobby. I felt a tightening in my chest. I watched as he approached the front desk, where a nervous receptionist named Sarah was trying her best to process his check-in. Julian leaned over the mahogany counter, his face inches from hers, complaining about the wait time. He called the service pathetic. He called the hotel a glorified motel. And then he turned his gaze toward me. He looked me up and down, his eyes lingering on my scuffed shoes I wore because they were comfortable for walking miles of corridors every day. He sneered, asking me why a janitor was standing around doing nothing while a man of his stature was being inconvenienced. He told me that people like me were the reason society was crumbling, lazy, entitled, and lacking the drive to ever amount to anything. I stayed silent, my face a mask of professional calm, even as his words stung. He didn't know that I had personally approved the $1 million renovation of the very suite he was about to sleep in. He didn't know that his entire investment portfolio was currently being reviewed by my board of directors for a potential buyout. To him, I was just background noise. The next 3 days were a masterclass in cruelty. Julian Vane made it his mission to demean every staff member he encountered. He sent back perfectly cooked steaks 5 times just to watch the waiter apologize. He intentionally spilled red wine on the lobby carpet and watched with a smirk as the cleaning crew scrubbed it on their knees. Every time he saw me, he had a new insult ready. He told me I was a bottom feeder and that I should be grateful he even allowed me to exist in the same zip code as him. Deep down, I felt a profound sense of sadness for him. He was so consumed by the need to feel superior that he had lost the ability to be human. My pained heart wasn't for my own ego, but for the culture he represented, the idea that a person's value is tied to their net worth. I spent my nights in my modest apartment, far away from the hotel's luxury, reflecting on my father's words. I realized that the time for observation was over. It was time for a lesson. The climax began on the final evening of the summit. The grand ballroom was filled with the elite of the financial world. Tuxedos and silk gowns moved like a river under the crystal chandeliers. Julian Vane was in his element, holding a glass of vintage champagne and bragging about a deal he was certain would close by morning, a partnership with the Ethelgard Group that would save his struggling firm. I entered the ballroom, but I wasn't wearing my navy blazer. I was dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that had been waiting in my private office for months. As I walked through the crowd, the whispers started. My senior managers, who had kept my secret faithfully, bowed their heads slightly as I passed. Julian saw me from across the room. He didn't recognize me at first in the dim, atmospheric lighting. He marched over, likely intending to scold another servant who had wandered into the wrong room. But as he got closer and the light hit my face, his expression shifted from irritation to confusion, and finally to a pale, ghostly white. I stood at the podium, the microphone hum filling the silent room. I didn't look at the cameras or the famous faces in the front row. I looked directly at Julian. I spoke about the values of the Ethelgard Group. I talked about how a building is only as strong as its foundation, and a company is only as honorable as the way it treats its lowest paid employee. I announced that the partnership Julian Vane had been banking on was officially canceled. I explained, in front of everyone he sought to impress, that my company does not do business with those who lack basic human decency. The room went cold. Julian's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the very floor he had mocked days earlier. In that moment, the power dynamic didn't just shift, it evaporated. He tried to speak, to apologize, to claim it was all a misunderstanding, but the words died in his throat. He realized that the man he had stepped on, the bottom feeder he had shamed, held his entire future in his hands. But I didn't feel a sense of triumph. I felt a heavy responsibility. After the security led a trembling Julian out of the hall, I went back to my office and looked out over the city. I thought about the power I held and how easily it could turn someone into a monster if they weren't careful. I decided that night to establish a foundation in my father's name, dedicated to workers' rights and dignity in the hospitality industry. I realized that being the owner wasn't about the title or the penthouse. It was about being the protector of those who make the dream possible. As I walked out of the hotel that night, the night shift janitor was mopping the entrance. I stopped, thanked him for his hard work, and asked him how his family was doing. He smiled, surprised that someone in a charcoal suit cared. We must remember that the world is a revolving door. Today you might be at the top, and tomorrow you might be looking up from the bottom. But no matter where you stand, your character is the only thing you truly own. Never look down on someone unless you are helping them up, because you never truly know whose house you are standing in or what kind of greatness is hidden behind a humble smile.